Hi guys. The IMA body has released a few changes to the CMA and US syllabus, and in this video we're going to cover it all for you guys. So point number one, all of this is effective from the September-October 2024 window. So if obviously it's going to be from the next attempt, if you've given any of the parts in the previous attempt, it really won't be a concern for you guys. So what is it? What are the kind of changes? Well, number one, they are minor changes, not any major changes. There have been a few things like changing the nomenclatures of some of the modules. Not a big deal at all. What is important for you guys is to know that some parts of the syllabus has been added and some have been deleted. I think it's quite interesting because, if you're studying really for growing in your career, these kind of bodies, professional bodies, international bodies, they really put a lot of effort in knowing what's really happening in the market and putting it in your syllabus. I used to get very energized by studying something of the real world. It used to give us, it will give you an edge over somebody who might even have a few years of experience, but for whatever reason is not at the cutting edge of everything that is happening today. Whereas these bodies, they are the ones who are really at the cutting edge. So I'm going to explain what those differences are. Number one, when it comes to part 2, there are 3 subjects that have changed their names, and it's just to give a slight clarity to what, a slight specification to those subjects, because now each of those modules, each of those sections, each of those subjects have a vast range of what they could mean. So for example, section C, it was known as decision analysis. Now it's known as business decision analysis. Risk management, which is section D, is now known as enterprise risk management, because risk is so varied, so wide. Lastly, section E, which was known as investment decisions, are now known as capital investment decisions. Not at all a big deal. And so now I'm going to talk about some of the additions and deletions which might be more interesting to you guys. Starting with part 1, section A. Here, A, you've got to be able to define what a consolidated financial statement is. You've got to know the difference between a variable interest entity model and a voting interest model. Next, you need to show that you can understand the difference in consolidation accounting, namely between full consolidation, proportionate consolidation, and equity consolidation. And lastly, you've got to have an understanding of intra-company balances and transactions that should be eliminated in consolidation. It's quite interesting because think about the Tata Group, okay? The Tata Group, the parent company is Tata Sons. And it has multiple, it has TCS, it has Tata Motors, it has just, they call the Tata Group the Salt Software Group. It has everything under the sun under its entity, but it all has to eventually be consolidated. Now, for example, Tata Steel might be selling their steel to Tata Motors. Now, while for those individual companies, there is a profit and a loss that occurs in these transactions, for Tata Sons as a whole, it's all part of the family, right? So the family economics don't really have that transaction, so they need to be eliminated when you draw the consolidated financial statements. So these are the things that you will learn in part A. I think it's quite interesting. First of all, it's quite realistic. A lot of the massive companies in the world they have to do this to show what's a fair view of their financial performance, and I think learning this will help you, whether it's in your job or whether it's in the future. You're going to have to make certain decisions on behalf of clients or for your own company. Great learning for everybody. Next, in part 1, we'll go to section D, and here, like you can see, there are some deletions. So as you can see, process costing is reduced. The theory of constraints is eliminated. Activity-based management has been eliminated, and obviously ways to improve accounting process. Deletions are always great. You just one less thing to worry about for the exam. Next is section E, where there are certain additions under governance, risk and compliance. Step 1 is you've got to be able to identify and explain the methods for testing the adequacy of internal controls, including inquiry, observation, inspection and reperformance, and how to remediate internal control deficiency. Why is this important? As a CMA US candidate, you have to have the ability to help an organization function, not just from a financial point of view, but also process point of view. You'll have to help companies design processes, and you'll have to in turn make sure that there are controls in check so that those processes continue smoothly, and reduce human intervention, reduce differences across a few. So just think about 1 year in a company, there are no processes, and there is somebody performing something in Jan, Feb, March, April, May. There's a chance that what he does in Jan and for the same thing what he does in August might be different, causing a lot of problems in running any company smoothly. So you might as well use processes, and for that you need to ensure that processes are continuously checked. That's what comes under the governance, risk, compliance, what is added to section E. Section F. Now, what is deleted, as you can see, is COVID, not a big deal, but what's added is interesting. So data analytics has been added, where you've got to understand what data management is. We all know it's becoming, data is becoming more valuable than oil, as they say, and it's probably good that if you're studying this kind of a qualification today, you learn as much about how data is affecting the economic world as much as you can. You might build a career without us knowing. Maybe in 10 years you watching might be specializing in the field of data management, and it's great to have that as your base stemming from CMA US. Even the type of data analytics, right? Multiple regression, logistic regression, recognize when these techniques are appropriate, calculate multiple regression equations. Nothing to really, look forward to studying it. All of us are heavily on platforms like Instagram, like YouTube, like Google, like we all have electronic mails. Everything around us is digital. Everything around us is regarding data, from WhatsApp to, we all know how Facebook and rather Meta now targets ads because of them having so much of data. Apple has been sued multiple times for data privacy, so has Google. We know all of this. It's good to study it formally, and hopefully over time, how the world functions will start clicking to you, because you studied data management, you studied financial performance, you studied how to build processes for organizations, you studied how to manage stakeholder expectations. You're studying this in isolation to pass an exam, but at some point, especially with a little bit of experience, it all connects, and you suddenly become somebody who's taken 20 years out of just experience to understand everything. You can understand within a year. And that's the beauty of studying these new age subjects and modules. Part 2, Section A, Addition. As you can see, it's on comparative financial statement analysis. I personally love all of this because it's all to do with decision making. It's all to do with figuring what are the patterns you can decipher to help you make patterns from financial statements to make decisions. You can look at a company's balance sheet or profit and loss account. You can compare it to its past 3 years performance. You can compare it to the industry standard, and you can make so many decisions because of insights. For example, you look at a profit and loss account. Let's talk about a digital company, right? A tech-based company, and you see its main competitor, right? And you'll see that this company's customer acquisition cost is 30%, whereas the industry standard is 20%, which means this company right now is either investing heavily in acquisition, and it's fine, let it grow. It's okay in the beginning for companies to build their brand very hard, or it could mean that this company is not getting customers in the most profitable way, which means it might not be a very long-lasting company. How do you figure all this? By studying comparative financial statement. So this is another, I would say, an interesting topic for you to learn. Next, in section B is on raising capital, which is advantages, disadvantages of debt financing versus equity financing. You anyways cover this in corporate finance, so not it's again, and it's interesting. Many people who love to get into the field of finance, want to get into fundraising, want to get into the markets. As always, a great learning for everybody. Nothing in section C and D. And section E, you have capital investment analysis methods. You've got to figure out profitability index. You've got to figure out sensitivity analysis. And again, what do these things mean? When you have limited capital and you have to invest in different ways, how do you make the decision? What is the sensitivity index? What is the profitability index? And how does that help you make the right decision? At a personal level, let's say you have ₹1,00,000 which you're ready to spend. Do you spend it on buying a new phone, or do you maybe spend it on a trip, or maybe do you spend it on some other item? How do you figure that out? This is a formal approach that removes the emotion out of the picture and gives you complete logic-based approach on how to calculate all this. Lastly, section F, this is new, business ethics and data ethics has been added. Business ethics, of course, is all about frauds and how do you ensure that you conduct. We've reached a world where all of us who are the new generation, we don't want to work with too much of headaches. We don't want to break rules. We don't want to do anything that is really, if we are successful doing it in the correct way, we don't want to really resort to any wrong way. So if the whole generation is of that opinion, then it's good to really teach everyone on the right way to do things. And that's what business ethics is about. Data ethics, like I mentioned, right? It's part of the new world, there is a way to look at data in a right way and a wrong way. Again, like I said, you see a lot of privacy issues happening over the last few years, an example of all of that. So I think that's a great way of looking at it. That's what data ethics is about. And section EF has a few deletions as well. As you can see, there's moral philosophies and statement on management accounting, value and ethics, etc. So I gave you a detailed view on it. You can download this PDF if you'd like. But more importantly, don't worry guys, I think it's a good change. Few things that are added that are useful and I would say interesting to study because you can relate to it. And things which are deleted, we're always happy at. You can study it if you want, but it's not for the exam. If you found any value in this video, give us a thumbs up, and otherwise do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.